talks about a woman when she gives birth, and it talks about she gives birth to a male, she's tummy X amount of days, a female, X amount of days she's tummy. So there's a very famous medrash that talks about in a pregnancy. Everyone's familiar with the medrash. The medrash tells us that inside the mother's womb, right, the malach teaches the child Torah, and then when the child leaves the womb, all the Torah is forgotten. So just 2 points. One is we've always talked about this, that what's the point of Hashem having the malach teach you Torah if you're going to forget it anyway, right? So we explained that the idea is to embed truth inside you so that when you hear it, yeah, that sounds right. It resonates. It rings a bell, right? That comes from the fact that it's already inside of us, and so we're hardwired for certain absolute truths. That's what we explained about many, many times. But it's interesting to note 2 things. One is that it's dafka, specifically the teachings of malach, that we forget. You think of malach's teaching. How do you forget a malach's teaching? Malach teaches Torah and you forget. It's hard to understand. But it's just the opposite. The malach's teaching is dafka teaching we forget. Because a malach is perfect, is the imperfect teacher. You can only learn from someone that's imperfect. If someone's perfect and you say, you can't teach me because you don't know what it means to have temptation or right? To have the evil instincts. You have no clue what that means. I can't learn from you. You're from a different planet, literally, right? It's dafka somebody that we know, that we can relate to, and we see they had our struggles, and yet they were able to overcome them, and they were able to become the virtuous people they became, that we can be inspired by them and aspire to be like them. But the malach can't be an effective teacher because at the end of the day, we can't relate to the fact that they have no struggle. And so therefore we can't learn from them. So therefore dafka, their teachings are the teachings that we forget. The other way of understanding it is the reason why we forget the teaching is because easy come, easy go. All the Torah that we got in the womb didn't come with hard labor. We sat in the womb, we were bored anyway, probably doing nothing anyway. So malach comes, perfect chavrusa, you're sitting, you're learning all day. Baruch Hashem, everything's provided for you in the mother's womb, there's nothing to worry about. You're learning Torah, it's unbelievable. But there's no yagiyah, so to speak. There's no really effort and struggle. And if there's no effort and struggle, then it's not easily retained. And so, even though it's gifted to us, but everything that's given to us as a gift doesn't have the same thing. Doesn't have the same. We don't acquire it when something you actually literally acquire. When you're kona, when you acquire something through hard work, when you have to pay for it, when it costs you in time and energy and invest, so that is what sticks with you. But the stuff that's gifted to you, then who says it'll stay with you? And so dafka, the Torah, the Malach teaches us, is a Torah that really doesn't stay with us because we don't struggle with it. And that's really a valuable, very important lesson about the Torah of the Malach. But if we could extend that to Pesach, and that is the idea of the struggle. We're going to start if I asked you, why do we eat matzah on Pesach? Anybody? Why do we eat matzah on Pesach? Why do we eat matzah on Pesach?
Many reasons.
Many reasons. Yeah? What reasons do you know?
I heard the other day a shiur by Rabbi Tapalav.
No, I want basics. Nothing confusing.
Well, I mean, basically,
Simple.
did they have time during the living in Mitzrayim?
Didn't have time for the bread to bake. Yeah, okay, that's true. Although we need to ask ourselves, so what? So that was just a bad stroke of luck. They didn't have time. That's like almost incidental. Just because they didn't have time, why do we have to eat matzah? Because they got stuck eating matzah, we got stuck eating matzah? And because they wore sandals, we should wear sandals? It doesn't make sense. Just because they ate matzah, what's so significant in the fact they didn't have time to bake? So they didn't have time to bake. Okay. I was like...
What is the root of matzah?
Huh?
What's the root of matzah?
What does it mean?
From what word? I know it's not a verb, but... I heard different. It has a different shortage. Torah,
right. There might be different Russian.
Yeah.
There might be different Russian. Yeah. But let's hold it for a second.
Okay.
So one thing is that, like you said, that somehow we're eating matzah because of the fact that we left Mitzrayim in a hurry. Others, I think the Abarinel amongst them, it's not so simple, that says that we start off halach ma'anya, right? The whole Seder, the Haggadah begins with the words, this is the poor man's bread, the achalav asar the Mitzrayim. This is the poor man's bread that we ate in Mitzrayim, and we eat the matzah to symbolize the poor man's bread. It was obviously very simple food. The Mitzrayim could feed us just flour and water, and that's why we eat it. It's really, there are those that learn that way. The Maral is vehement that that's not the pshat. In fact, the Haggadah doesn't say that. The Haggadah substantially what you said. We say, matzah zu an oichel al shema. Why do we eat the matzah? Al shem shalai hispek avasei, because we didn't have enough time to get out of Mitzrayim in time. So the Haggadah itself seems to give credence to what you said and not the halach manya, right? And yet, it's hard to dismiss as coincidence that, the matzah that we're eating when we left Mitzrayim, it just happens to be the same matzah that they ate in Mitzrayim because they ate in a hurry, because it was a poor man's bread, right? It's hard to dismiss it as coincidence. So how do you understand that the matzah that we eat on Pesach is because we left in a hurry, and yet it happens to also be the same matzah that the Jews ate in Mitzrayim because it was a poor man's bread, right?
Hello.
So how do you?
How are you? I bought you some water.
Thank you. Wow.
And kosher pumpkin seed.
Is anything in this water? Just plain water.
Huh?
Is this water or vodka? What is this?
Mixed with vodka and water.
There we go. Now it's okay. Thank you.
You want some pumpkin seed?
No, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, I'm not so gifted. I can't talk and chew pumpkin seeds like that. All right. So the question is, the same matzah that represents the poor man's bread also represents our freedom. That seems to be kind of strange, but it's not strange at all. But rather, it's not a coincidence that they both represent the matzah, because in fact, the lesson of the night of Pesach is that the very matzah that represents our affliction is what causes our freedom. In other words, yes, the matzah is a symbol of our freedom. That's clear. But it's not a coincidence that it started out as a bread of our affliction. That avdus, that being enslaved in Golus, leads to geula. And therefore, the very matzah that represents one thing evolves into geula. Let me explain what that means a little bit. We know the entire night of Pesach, we do things so the children, should be more engaged, right? And one of the things we do is the entire night of Pesach is there to encourage questions, right? When you ask, the children should ask, and even no children, right? We always engage them in questions, and obviously the simple understanding is, because when you engage, when there are questions, you're much more involved, it's much more interesting, right? And you'll stay up and get involved in the Seder. But there's a deeper explanation why the night of Pesach, the Haggadah, is formulated with question and answer. And the reason for that is, let's go to the fourth son. We're going to come back to all the sons of Mitzvah, but the fourth son is the Eini Dei Lishon. And the Eini Dei Lishon, the one that doesn't know how to ask, it says, At Pesach Loi. You open him up, get him to ask. Because he doesn't know how to ask. Eini Dei Lishon, he doesn't know how to ask. You get him to ask. Why do you want to get him to ask? Just tell him a story. Why do you need to get him to ask? And the word Pesach literally means open him up. It's an interesting word, choice of words. It doesn't say, you tell him to ask, you feed him questions. Open him up. What does it mean to open him up? So, if I have this chumash, and I want it to stick on this wall, so I put it over here, it's going to slide right down. It's not going to stay anyplace, right? But if I make a little hole in this wall, and I put it, then it has a place for it to catch, right? Same thing. If I give a drasha for half an hour, I can actually see, I'm slapping it on your forehead, on your brain. I can actually watch it slide down your brain. It's going, gone, right? You forget it, right? But if I make a hole in your brain, and then I give you something, then it has a place to stay. It's lodged. How to make a hole in your brain? How to make a hole in your brain? How to make a hole?
Get you engaged.
What?
Get you engaged.
Well, you ask a question. A question makes a void, makes an empty space, right? When you ask a question, now there's a space that's empty. And now when you fill it with an answer, you really appreciate it because it was a void, it was an empty space, and now the answer fills that void. It has a place to stay, it's lodged in that place, but you get it. Oh, now I understand it. It was an empty space, and now I feel the space being filled, I appreciate it, right? I said, just give you an explanation, and you don't know what the question was beforehand, it's like, right? Very often the Ramban, when he his Pirush, he goes, the tam, and the reason for, and he gives you a Pirush. If you don't have the word Vitam, when the Ramban says the word Vitam, he means there's really a problem that's bothering him, and he's giving you the answer. But if you don't appreciate the question, if you don't figure the question, what he says really doesn't somehow seem to be so important or so critical. But once you figure out what the Ramban meant to ask, then the answer really fills that space up, right? So that concept, that a question, you need a question to appreciate the information in the form of an answer, is precisely what Golus and Geul is. Golus is to question as Geula is to answer. In the Golus, we have questions. We don't understand. There's a void in our life. We feel empty. And then Geula comes and fills it up. And then you appreciate the Geula. Just like you can't appreciate light without darkness, you really can't appreciate Geula without Golus. And so the idea is that at psachlai, open him up means create an opening in his head, make an opening in his brain, get him to ask a question, and then when you put something in that hole, it has staying power. So the reason why the entire night of Pesach, the Seder, is constructed with a question and answer format is because the question and answer format parallels Golus and Gula. Question and answer is like Golus and Gula. The answer fills the question like Gula fills the Golus. You follow? And that's why the entire night of Pesach is based on Golus and Gula. And so the very matzah that represents the bread of affliction is the symbol of our freedom, because ultimately it's the Golus that leads to our Gula. So therefore it's one, the same matzah can be both. But it's true, the matzah is a symbol of our freedom, but it starts out as Golus first. And only because it starts as Golus can you appreciate it as Gula. That's the real lesson. And that's why we've spoken about in the past, maybe not this year, maybe previous years, I don't remember anymore. That's why Hillel came up with this really ingenious thing. Right? We have matzah. Not exactly the tastiest food on the planet, but it's a mitzvah. We eat it, right? Good. Maror, not doing so good either, right? I mean, the matzah tastes great compared to the matzah, the maror, right? Right? When you have maror, you have matzah. Also, the matzahs, you look forward to the matzah because of maror, right? But the truth of the matter is, matzah, not necessarily great taste, although we'll see. We'll come to the chacham. We want the taste of the matzah to linger. It's obviously something about the taste, right? Afrikaner. But Hillel says, you know what? I have a good idea. He says, al matzah mreim yachluhu. It's not enough to eat matzah, not to eat maror. I want you to have a sandwich. Have this matzah and maror sandwich. Right? In your wildest dreams, if you have to come up with a sandwich that you think would be a bestseller, the last thing on your list would be a matzah maror sandwich, a kairach sandwich. What's Hillel trying to promote? By saying, no, it's not enough to eat matzah, not enough to eat maror, you have to eat it together. What he's trying to say is that matzah and maror is a package deal. Matzah is the gula, and maror certainly represents the gullus. And Hillel says you have to appreciate it's one package. That gullus and gula go together. And at the night of Pesach, it's not enough that we say thank you for the gula, but we relive the gullus and appreciate that the gullus is what made us who we are, so we can have a gula. You follow? So the night of Pesach, it's both. We don't just celebrate the gula. We relive the gullus experience. In fact, that's what the son doesn't get. When the son asks the man ashtana, he says, why do we eat matzah? And why do we eat maror? And then he says, why do we dip? Why do we lean? What he's saying, honestly, guys, what are we doing tonight? Dipping and leaning is royalty. Matzah and maror, we so say, with at least the beginning of the Seder, with bitter experiences, and the maror, right? So what is it tonight? He doesn't understand. Are we celebrating or commiserating on our misery? And our answer is, Avodim hayinu l'paro Mitzrayim. We were slaves to Paro. V'yotzi and Hashem took us out. We're going through the entire parsha of Golus and Geula. That's right. Matzah and maror, and the dipping and the leading, because it's Golus Geula is part of the theme, and it's one package. Now Golus gets to Geula. And like, in the night of Pesach, we begin to appreciate that the Golus was also what we needed to get into Geula. So that's Apsachloi, open them up, and that's Golus to get into the Geula, and that's why the matzah symbolizes the affliction, symbolizes the freedom, and that's what we're saying over here. If we're saying that because you didn't struggle inside your mother's womb to get that Torah, therefore that Torah is forgotten, without the struggle of Golus, there wouldn't be a Geula. It's dafka in the struggle of Golus that you achieve a Geula. Golus is not just a waste of time. We're just treading water until we get out. No, there's something to be accomplished in Golus. I think we may have done this once, I don't remember. In Parshas Tzav, I don't know if we covered this or not. Parshas Tzav, there's a medrash. The medrash says that Talmidim was sitting in front of Rabbi Yesi ben Kisma, and they asked him, Ad Mosai Bab ben David, when's Mashiach coming? So he answered them, Zais Tairas Ha'olah. This is the mitzvah of the Olah. That's a bizarre answer. They ask when Mashiach's coming, and he tells them when the mitzvah of the Olah is. In fact, he quotes the pasuk in Tzav. The Torah introduces the Olah in Parshas Vayikra, but it also mentions it in Tzav. However, in Vayikra, the Torah introduces us to the main carbon. In Tzav, it talks about when you have left over, you burn it at night, and that's what he's quoting. That pasuk. They're asking about Mashiach, and he's saying burn the leftovers of the idol. Well, what's going on over here? He understood from their question that they were desperate. They were exasperated. When's Mashiach coming? Because right now we're not accomplishing anything. We're just waiting around till Mashiach comes. He said, you're making a mistake. That's not true. Look at the Zog's Torah Sa'olah. There's a mitzvah to bring and burn the leftovers in the night from the Olah. And at nighttime, you burn the leftovers at night. And night represents gullus. That there's a mitzvah, and that we succeed in. There's an Indian that even leftover stuff, the stuff that seems trivial, that there's an avoda with that also, and that don't feel that disheartened. That while you're waiting around gullus, you're simply waiting around. That's not true. Adarabah, that there's a tachlis that you're accomplishing, even if it's small things and it looks like leftovers. Those small things are significant. The fact that we didn't change our names and our clothing, those are small things in comparison. But you know what? That's what saved us. Because we did at least that one thing in the shmutz and the tumah of Mitzrayim. We were able to hold on to our language and hold on to our. We didn't change our names, and that was considered incredibly significant, even though in the big picture it was not. But in Golos, that's significant. So don't dismiss. He said, don't think that before Mashiach comes, you're wasting your time. There's an avodah in Golos, and we learn a lot from Golos, and that allows us to achieve Geula. And that part of the struggle is what allows us to achieve Geula. That's really one idea. But on Pesach, we just kind of tied it into the teachings of the Malach, that we didn't go through struggle. It doesn't stay with us. Okay, so that's one concept behind Pesach, is a Golos leading to Geula, and the efforts we have to make in Golos. Another theme of Pesach that I want to discuss is we're talking about the matzah. So the matzah represents is a symbol of freedom, right? Why is it a symbol of freedom? Well, because we left in a hurry. We left. It's much deeper than that. Because matzah is the most simple of all foods, right? In a way, simplicity breeds freedom. In other words, the more complex your life is, the more you're tied down by all these different things, and you're not really free. When you're able to break things down to their basics, when you're not, not every physical thing entices you, then you're able to taste freedom. The matzah is a symbol of freedom precisely. In a way, a poor person, not that we want to be poor people, but Ram points out that a poor person is not tied down. A poor person doesn't have, the idea of marba nechasa, marba daigis, doesn't have all these things that he possesses that worry him, tie him down. There's a certain element of freedom that a poor person has, precisely because he has nothing. And so the lechem represents our freedom because we had nothing tying us down. And in a way, that means that in life, sometimes we have to learn how to get back to basics and become simpler people, and not let the complexities of life, pull us down, or bring us to the point where everything has to become so complex. And that really is when you taste freedom. Let's talk about the matzah from a different perspective. We asked the question, why is it important that we left Mitzrayim in a hurry? And because we left in a hurry, we couldn't bake them bread, so therefore we're stuck with matzah. We eat matzah. So what? So we got stuck eating matzah because we couldn't bake bread, so that's why we have to eat matzah? Why is that? And why is that a symbol of freedom? If we were stuck and we couldn't, leave in no place, what's that all about? Also, we have a big emphasis on by Makas Bechoros, that Hashem Nivlo Malach, I did it, not a Malach, and we emphasize Kili Bechor. Hakadosh Baruch Hu announces that Bnei Yisrael are my Bechor. What is so significant about being a Bechor? Why is that so significant? We find also in the beginning of Vayechi, when Yaakov wants to give a bracha to Yosef's children, he said, your two children that you had, that were born to you before I came down to Mitzrayim, are like Reuven and Shimon. Why does Yaakov need to stick in the words, your two children that were born to you before I got here? Why does it have to mention before I got here? No, your children are like to me, Nash Ephraim, like Reuven and Shimon. Why the emphasis of before I got here? Why is that significant?
Did Joseph have any other children?
No.
After that?
No.
Only
Yeah.
Nasha and Ephraim.
Yeah. So what does it? Right. So exactly. So what does it have to say? that were born. Why is that important to clarify that? What's significant about that? Well, we also know, we ask this question every year, Pesach is called Pesach because HaKadosh Baruch Hu jumped over the homes of the Jewish people and he saved them during Makas Becheres. And again, the obvious question is, okay, that's true, but he saved us by every plague, right? By dam, we didn't have dam, frogs, we didn't have frogs, kingdom. So why are we calling Pesach Pesach? Because in one of the Makkahs he jumped over our homes, but let's call the Yom Tov frogs, because he saved us, right? He didn't give us frogs. So like, why? Because he jumped over our homes, which is just one part of the Makkah of Becheres that he did for us, is the whole Pesach, get that name. So it really is like this. Essentially, there are two Yom Tovim that seems that all Jews seem to really gravitate towards. Pesach, whether you're religious, not religious, something about Pesach pulls you in, and Yom Kippur. Now, those are two Yom Tovim that there happen to be a certain similarity to Yom Kippur and Pesach. One of them simple. We both nights you wear a kittel. Right? You wear a kittel on Kippur, you wear a kittel on Pesach. Interesting. It's also interesting that on Yom Kippur we begin with the words Kol Nidre. Now, Pesach itself doesn't begin with the word Kol Nidre, but to prepare for Pesach, the night before we start with Kol Chamira. Right? All our chametz should be burnt, should be destroyed. The word Kol is significant because the word Kol has a gematria of 50. The Chaf is 20, the Lamed is 30, so 50. And 50 represents the highest level of purity. Both on Yom Kippur and on Pesach, we get to the 50th level of purity. And that's why we wear the white kittel, to represent that purity. But there's a really big difference between the purity of Yom Kippur and the purity of Pesach. The purity of Yom Kippur came through really hard work. We start Rosh Chodesh Elul, we work through the whole month of Elul, we get it perspective, then you have Rosh Hashanah, Aseret Tshuva, right? And it's hard work, until you hopefully taste a certain level of purity in Yom Kippur. Pesach, you walk into Yom Tov, and there's something called Kedusha. B'nai Yisrael achieved Kedusha on Pesach, not because they had really developed themselves. No, they were on the 49th level of Tumah. They were on the lowest level. And what happened? As they went from almost nothing and totally impure, and in one moment, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, as they walked out of Mitzrayim, you are Mamlechas Kahana V'Goy Kodesh, you are a holy nation. We went from nothing to holiness in a moment. And when I say a moment, even the word moment is not the right word. We were created at that time. We went from a non-existent nation. In Mitzrayim, we were not a nation. We were an Am Yisrael. We were B'nai Yisrael. We went from a non-existent nation to a nation, to a peoplehood. And we were created at that moment. Creation doesn't take place over time. When Hashem created the world, Einstein talks about the theory of relativity, that time and mass are related. You could only have time when you have mass. When you have mass, when you have physicality, you have different processes, you have things that happen over time. When Hashem created the world, we went from non-existence to existence. That moment was beyond time. There was no time yet. You can only have time when you have the physical world. When Hashem created Klal Yisrael, there was no time element involved as well. When it says that Bnei Yisrael left in a hurry, it doesn't just mean they went quickly, they ran quickly. That might be true for different reasons. But the morale says what it's trying to convey is there was no element of time involved. That's what it's trying to convey. That's what the matzah represents. You see, what is bread? Bread is a process that takes time. You go from flour and water, and over time, just time, the process plays itself out. Voila, you have chametz. The whole point of Pesach was no process, no time. That's the significance of we didn't have time to bake when we left. It wasn't just simply we didn't have time. It's the concept behind it. The Torah is trying to convey that on Pesach we didn't go through a process. We didn't develop and evolve over time into a nation. We went from a non-nation to an Am Kodesh in a moment. There was no process involved. And that's what Pesach represents. And so we eat the matzah that speaks of the fact that no time was involved, no process involved. We went from nothing to greatness in a moment.
I take issue with what you're saying.
Yeah, what do you mean?
First of all, the plagues took place over a year.
I'm talking about the actual, but we weren't Am Yisrael yet. Yeah.
Okay, and they had to earn their way out by slaughtering the lamb in front of
Okay,
the Egyptians,
okay.
that was
We'll
something.
we'll talk about that. That's a very good question. We'll talk about what that means. They didn't have any. We'll talk about that. All
Okay.
right. All right. We will talk about that. Believe that. That's a very good point. We'll see. There are two steps. One is to become a nation, and one is to get. We'll see what they're going to get from Mount Torah. We'll see. That's the next step. They're two different steps. All right. We'll get there in a second. That's a very valid question. Okay. So we will get there now. It's a whole share, but maybe we'll save it next time. We'll see. But that's a very good point. All right. Um, but the point is that Klal Yisrael just came into existence in the moment of Pesach. And what that represents is that Pesach every year represents that concept that we are able to pass over. That's why we call the word Pesach Passover, because Klal Yisrael passed over the process. We jump started and we kind of skipped the process. So the word Passover doesn't just mean, yes, Hashem passed over the homes, but what really it's conveying is that we passed over the normative process of growth that you take. We bypassed the entire process. We passed over the process. We bypassed the process. We went from nothing to greatness. And every year Pesach, we get that opportunity. The reason why Jews gravitate to Pesach is because on some level, whether they know it consciously or subconsciously, they feel something special when they walk into that Seder table. They feel like, oh, I'm now part of Am Yisrael. Even if I didn't deserve it till now, I'm part of Klal Yisrael, and I feel even that little kedusha. How did it happen? I didn't work on it. You just arrived. On Pesach, we arrive as part of the nation just by showing up, being part of Klal Yisrael. You feel that kedusha. You go for that ride where you bypass the steps. Every year, Pesach, we're able to feel a certain level of kedusha that doesn't involve a process, and we all feel it. No matter where you were the rest of the year, everyone, no matter where you were, bypasses the process. That's really the element of Pesach. And with that, I want to just emphasize that idea by talking about the Haggadah itself. I don't know if we talked about this last week. Did we talk about Haggadah versus Sipur? The Zechira versus Sipur? I don't think so. Okay. So the obvious question is, we have a mitzvah every single day to remember the fact that Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, right? Every day we have that mitzvah, right? And yet we have a special mitzvah on the night of Pesach called Sipur Mitzrayim. And everyone asks the question, what's the difference between the mitzvah Zechira that we have every night versus the mitzvah Sipur? Right? They seem to be, similar mitzvahs. So, one answer is that what? What's one answer? What's the difference between Zechira and Sipur? What do you think?
To recall and to remember and to relate, to
Good.
speak about it.
Very good. One is simply to recall, to remember, which could be in your head. You may not even have to say it, or certainly recall could be in a moment. Where Sipur implies much more of an involved, long process, long time, right? So, absolutely true. But I want to share with you it's not just a function of quantity. Zechira is a moment, a few minutes, and Sipur is, you got the whole night to do it. We'll see there's a qualitative difference as well. The Rambam, when he codifies the 613 mitzvahs, he obviously includes the mitzvah Sipur Yisrael as one of the Tarek mitzvahs. But he does not include Zechira as one of the Tarek mitzvahs, which is kind of an eye-opener. The mitzvah Zechira is such a fundamental mitzvah. The mitzvah to remember Mitzrayim.
That's what the Shema's all
Yeah, we invoke it every single day so many times. Zeichel Yisrael. How could the Rambam how could he admit it? It's a glaring omission that's not part of the Taryag. Some of the Noisei Kelim, some of the comments explain the Rambam the following way. They're more than 613 mitzvahs. But we have something called Sam's Club. You know what Sam's Club is? Yeah? So you have to be a member to be part of that club, right? So I'm going to tell you, there's a club called the 613 Club. 613 Club. And you have to be a member of that club to be part of 613. How do you become a member of the 613 Club? What mitzvahs get included in the 613? So when the Noisei Kelim says that one of the criteria has to be, it has to be a mitzvah that will apply in times of Mashiach. If it's not going to apply in times of Mashiach, it doesn't get into the 613 Club. Implying that the Rambam holds that the mitzvah of Zechira will not be part of the 613, and the mitzvah Sipur will be. Again, what's that all about? Now it happens to be in the Haggadah, we talk about it, because you say, Rambam says, I'm Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, I wasn't zecher to convince people to talk about Mitzrayim at nighttime until Ben Zayim came along, because he dashed Kol Yimei Chayecha, right? Either it means Lailos or it means Moshe Mashiach, right? Because the Vilna Gaon explains beautifully what's the machlokes. This is called coming to teach you that even times of Mashiach, that you'll mention Mitzrayim, or does it mean in nighttime? Because the word kol can mean two things. The word kol can mean every single, or kol can mean the whole. So if Kol Yimechecha means every single day, that means every day, including Mashiach. If Kol means the whole day, it means day and night. So if you darshan Kol to mean the whole day, the Torah is telling you that you have mitzvah zecher even night as well. If you darshan that Kol means every day, it means the Moshe Mashiach. Okay, so the Rambam obviously paskin that you won't have the mitzvah zechira, Yemosam Mashiach. But that begs the question: why? Why won't there be a mitzvah zechira, Yemosam Mashiach, and yet the mitzvah sipur will apply? So the Gemara really touched upon this. And the Gemara talks about like this. The Gemara says a mashal. If a guy, we mentioned this much in the past, I think, a guy is walking, I don't know, into town and he gets attacked by a wolf. And he escapes the wolf somehow. He's able to escape the wolf. When he gets out of the town to the next town, he's safe. He goes, guys, you're not going to believe what happened. A wolf almost attacked me. I was able to escape. Great. Then he goes to the next town, and he's about to be attacked by a bear. I don't know why the bear's after him, but the bear's running after him, and he escapes the bear, whatever. When he gets to the next town, and he's so excited, he's like, guys, you're not going to believe what happened. Is he going to talk about the bear or the wolf? Talk about the bear. And if he goes to the next town, he's almost attacked by a lion. It's a bad day for this guy, obviously. Right? He's talking about the lion. Why? Because the Gemara says, I'm paraphrasing, that it's Tzara Rishona is Nescha Eitz Lachrona, which means when you have a present drama or a present trauma, and you have a past drama, the present drama pushes the past one into the back of your memory. It recedes, it fades. A present one occupies your space, and that was what did occupy your space till now, and that gets pushed to the back because of the present drama. Therefore, the Gemara concludes, when Mashiach comes, that drama, that present drama will push the Yetzias Mitzrayim drama into the background. So it's going to fade into the background. That's what the Gemara explains. Now we have our answer. How come we're not going to have Zechira, but we will have Sipur? Why? Because we read in Agada, every person has to view himself, every single Jew has to visualize as if he himself left Mitzrayim. So, on the night of Pesach, we're not remembering what happened, because if remembering past history is going to get pushed away when Mashiach comes. That's true. But the mitzvah sipur is not past history. The mitzvah sipur says it's happening to you now. It's never a past drama. So the formula that a past drama gets pushed into the background doesn't apply to the mitzvah sipur, because sipur by definition means it's not a past drama. Sipur by definition means it's present. So the formula was a past drama fades into the background when you have a present drama. But sipur always keeps it a present drama. Hence, the mitzvah sipur will apply even as Mashiach. You get the formula? So Zechira is going to fall away in the eyes of Mashiach, because Zechira refers to remembering the past. That gets pushed into the background when you have a present drama, no doubt. But if Sipur is not about a past drama, it's not remembering the past, it's reliving now, it's happening to you now, it's happening now, it doesn't get pushed away, it's a present drama. Like you have two present dramas, you remember them both.
And existentially, it's true.
Absolutely.
Because we wouldn't be free today if we hadn't been freed then, and it's one continuum.
Absolutely. In fact, I want to add to that point. You said it very well said. I'm going to add to the idea. The word continuum is a great word, and existential is a great word. I remember Schwab asked me this question many, many years ago. And I think I may have presented you once also before. I remember we were talking about something, I remember it was, and he rolled up his arm and his sleeve, rather, and he points to his arm and says, Tzvi, is this the same arm I had 30 years ago? So I'm thinking, yeah. And I'm thinking, well, maybe not. And I can go both ways.
For the trick.
Huh? Is it a trick? So what do you think? Is it the same arm or not the same arm? What do you think?
Age.
So is it the same arm or not?
Yes and no.
Oh, yes and no. So the answer is, it is the same arm, but it's totally different cells, right? What you said is absolutely right. We are the exact same Jewish people left Mitzrayim. Same Jewish people, same arm, just different souls, so to speak, instead of different cells, right? But it's the same Bnei Yisrael, the same Am Yisrael. We left Mitzrayim. Exactly. The nation called Bnei Yisrael left Mitzrayim. And to the extent that we are part of Bnei Yisrael and we identify that way, we left Mitzrayim. So it is a present drama. The night of Pesach is to really understand that existential point that you said, that it's a continuum, that Hashem created was a Bria. Hashem created an entity called Klal Yisrael on night of Pesach. And that creation is like ex nihilo. Like any ex nihilo, there's no process involved. There was a creation. And we are part of that creation. So we went through it. That's exactly right. So that's the night of Pesach. That's the night of Pesach. And that's why I saw somebody say, "Ma nishtana halayla zemi kol halaylos." Why is night different? The question is, how can I make this night different than every other night? Every other night, I also talk about Yisrael Yisrael. Ma nishtana halayla zeh. What's going to be different about this night? And now what's going to be different about this night? And how am I going to be different because of this night? And the answer is the visualization. This matzah, this maror, this dipping. We do things to visualize. When you visualize things, they become real. When you remember the past, it's the abstract. Remembering is something in the past in the abstract. When you visualize something, it becomes real in the present. The night of Pesach, that's why you have all these visual aids on the table, from the salt water to the chavresis and the leaning, all these things that we do now. And some, I don't know if you will have a custom. Some of you have a custom to run. Do you run around the table with the
Yeah,
with
we
the,
do, yeah.
right?
With
Right.
the spring onion.
What?
No,
The
no.
scallion.
Scallion.
Yeah.
But you also have a package.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we do that.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's all visual. It's beautiful. That's all visualization to make it real. So, what's going to be different about this night is that unlike other nights we just remembered, we're using the koach hatzir, the power of the imagination and visualization to make it real, because we're supposed to feel like we left Mitzrayim. We have to feel exactly that. We are the Am Yisrael left Mitzrayim. That's what's supposed to happen the night of Pesach. And therefore it's not a past drama. It's present. It's us. It's Klal Yisrael. That's the avoda of the night of Pesach. You know, it's true that, everyone gets hung up. I'm guilty as well. Everyone gets new Haggadahs every year, a new pshatim, but you kind of miss the point if you think the Haggadah is all about just coming up with new pshatim. The night of Pesach is really, it's our role to infuse in ourselves and our children, the grandchildren, whatever the case is, a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We were created a night of Pesach, and that relationship, the Amunah that we had, that's what we're supposed to foster a night of Pesach. We're supposed to understand that there's a nation called Klal Yisrael that's different than any other nation. Every other nation evolved over time. Evolved. We didn't evolve. We were created, and therefore we were given eternity, because we're part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's creation of eternity. Hashem vowed and created us with a sense of nitzchias, and they have to understand that. We went from nothing, non-existent, to a nation. In fact, with Paro, I once did this with my children. I don't know if you would try this. It may not be so gishmak. But I once I told a child, I said, listen, build me something in blocks. I was a Pesach. I was right by the Seder. So they built something. It was very nice. I was very proud of it. And then I knocked it down. I said, build it again. So I built something else. I said, wow, it's so beautiful. I knocked it down again. And I said, build it again. Now they're really upset. Knocked it down. And the child's like almost about to cry. I said, that's how the Jews felt in Mitzrayim. They kept building things, and Paro kept knocking it down, or the swamps kept knocking it down. Understand their frustration. Understand their sense of not accomplishment. You know what Paro was trying to do? To make them feel totally unaccomplished. But in a way, it was part of Hashem's plan. You see, if they would have left Mitzrayim with these big skyscrapers in the background that they built, they would have had an identity before even they left Mitzrayim. Our identity is, look at this, we built these buildings. We contributed. No, you had no identity in Mitzrayim. You were non-existent. You were persona non grata. You didn't exist until I took you out of Mitzrayim and said you're a nation. So the reason why nothing they built remained, because that would have, in a sense, if they would have remained, it would have said they had an existence already. Look, we exist, we built. No, there's nothing of you. You became a nation when Hashem declared us to be a nation when He took us out of Mitzrayim. We became created as an Am Yisrael when we left Mitzrayim. Until that point, we didn't exist. If that stuff would have remained, then that would have been our identity on some level. So the night of Pesach is our role to inculcate in ourselves, our children, our grandchildren, the Amunah, that there's a Kadosh Baruch Hu that always watches over us. There's an Amunah that you get to create Samsuf, right? Anybody can daven to Hashem. I need parnasa. A lion also cries when he's hungry, right? It's not. We hit a dead end. We literally hit a dead end when we got to the Yam Suf, right? And we still turned to Hashem to help us. The idea is that Klal Yisrael understands that even when things look like a dead end, somehow, afilu cherv menachas al tzavarai, even when a sword is dangling by your throat, a Yid knows that HaKadosh Baruch can come in any time. And that's been our story throughout history. when it looks like the knife was at our throat so many times. It looks like we ought not to exist any longer. And I told you once, I think Rabbi Yaakov Emden said, more miraculous than the 10 plagues and Kriyas Samsov is the fact that we're still around. He said it's more of a miracle. It's more of a miracle that we're still around than Kriyas Samsov. And he meant that literally. He was not trying. It's not hyperbole. It's not. This is really. We have to appreciate, and that's what we want to give over to our children, our grandchildren. That there's a miracle called Klal Yisrael, and that's what we want to give over night of Pesach, to appreciate that, to give thanks for that, and to understand that no matter where we are, no matter how bad things look, there's an Eibishter, and there's a game plan. And there's a game plan for us. That life has a purpose. Even when we don't see it, we don't understand it.
Excuse me, Rabbi.
Yeah.
The cities that Jews built, Pitom Ram says.
Yeah, they kept sinking.
Keep saying it.
Yeah.
What does Pitom mean in Hebrew? Israelis say, Ma Pitom is something.
No, I don't. No,
it has nothing to do with that, right?
Yeah, no. It's just, there's no.
It keeps sinking.
Yeah, it was swamp. He built it on swampland.
So who built the
Pyramids?
pyramids?
I don't know.
Not the Jews?
Piton and Ramses.
I don't know.
There were cities.
Yeah, I don't know if he built it.
Rabbi,
I don't know,
if
yeah.
the nation of Israel was created on the night of Pesach,
Yeah.
so what we were
Beforehand,
before that?
I could see your brain thinking about that the whole time. I saw it in your head the whole time you asked that question.
It's bothering me.
I can see. So we were a culturally connected by the fact that we all came from Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and there was certain heritage that we had, certain traditions that we had, but it wasn't Am Yisrael. There were individuals that had a common heritage, but the creation of the nation in this eternal sense, that we created as a nation, and we went from total Tameh to total Kedusha, that only happened when we left Mitzrayim. But until that point, we had a history that bound us together. We had a common ancestors, but that fact that we had this metaphysical bond with one another called Am Yisrael, that didn't happen until we left Mitzrayim.
But really, I mean, you had a bunch of slaves who were running for their lives.
Right.
But wouldn't you say the nation was really created at Sinai when they were accepted to Torah?
Okay, so that maybe we'll talk about that later on. There are stages to our development. That's true, and it's true that one of the reasons why we count the Sfira from Pesach to Shavuos is because we recognize that getting freedom without a goal is worthless. You set prisoners free, but they have nothing to do with themselves. That's very dangerous, right? Unless they have jobs to go to, really bad news. Unless they have something to occupy themselves, really bad news. So to free us and not give us a goal to aspire to, slaves, not a good thing. So right away when we left Mitzrayim, we acknowledged that our identity is linked to getting a Torah. So it's true. So right away we left Mitzrayim, we're linking it to Matan Torah. There is a linkage for sure. But the first step was to be a nation, to be dedicated as a nation, and then be given the Torah. All right? But that's true. There needs to be a linkage. So that's really what we want to convey. I'm sure I've told you the story before. Did I tell you the story? I never told you this year. Don't remember anymore. The Bluzher Rebbe, my great uncle was a Hasidic Rebbe, and he went through the camps in Bergen-Belsen in particular. And I heard the story from him actually, because he wouldn't talk about the Holocaust the rest of the year. He found it too painful. But on the night of Pesach, he felt that was the appropriate time. He felt he had that responsibility, and I hate to say it about him, and I heard a number of these stories. So from him and his wife actually, and he tells over a story that a number of people in the camps approached him a few months before Pesach, and they said, "We want to have a Seder on Pesach, and we want you to lead the Seder." And he said, "Well, you guys are crazy. It's not happening. You can't have a Seder. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen." And they said, no, we have to have a Seder. We're going to have matzah. Matzah, where do you get matzah from? We're going to have matzah. No, we're going to have matzah, and we want you to lead the Seder. They begged, they cried. He said, it's too dangerous. No. He said, okay, let's think what's so badly. How can I say no? And what they did was they had stolen, over the course of months, a little bit of flour over the course of months, and they put some stones together, and they started a fire, and they baked a single matzah. Baked a single matzah. So there's a story within a story that I think they got caught. I think the matzah was broken, and they got another matzah. That part of the story I don't remember anymore. It's written down. I just saw it recently. This is how good they came out that mentioned that story, but I don't remember that part. So anyway, bottom line is they have a matzah. and they rendezvous in the middle of the night in one of the barracks for a Seder. It's incredible. And when they get to the part about when they're going to give out the matzah, or before the Seder started, you're not sure, a woman spoke to the Rebbe and said, listen, I know when you give out the matzah, your intention is to give it out to all those adults in the room. And if there's only a limited amount of matzah, so the children won't get. He said, this year, I think it's different. This year, you need to give the children first. They have to have matzah. Because the matzah is a symbol of hope. If it's a symbol of freedom, these children that are in the Nazi death camps, they have to know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. They have to know that we're going to outlive the Nazis. They have to know that Am Yisrael, Klal Yisrael will always be around, no matter how bleak. We guarantee eternity. And he thought for a moment, and he said, you're absolutely right. And they gave the children first. I don't know what's left over for the adults, I don't know. But first of all, just having that conversation is just mind-boggling on so many levels. First of all, the fact that I could have that conversation means, another question we didn't address is that, okay, we got out of Mitzrayim. Imagine somebody who's in prison and he escapes. So he celebrates. What happens if they catch him and they throw him back in prison? Do you think he's going to still celebrate? Oh, remember the time I escaped? No, he's back in prison. So we got out of Mitzrayim, but we're still in Gullus now. Okay, maybe it's a more benign Gullus. We're still in Gullus. Why are we celebrating? This story answers the question. If in the camps of Bergen-Belsen, as they're trying to totally destroy us and our bodies, they can't vanquish our spirits, that we're celebrating in the camps and saying Am Yisrael Chai, and we're saying that we're going to still live, we're going to outlive them because that's Pesach, that we have eternity, we're a chosen people no matter what, that means they didn't beat us. That means we won. That means we still have our freedom because they can't take away from us our spirit. That's freedom. So in every gullus, a Yid can still be free to the extent that they can't take away from him what his choices are. And it's an incredible concept.
That was the theme of Viktor Frankl's book.
Yes, absolutely.
They can control everything, but
Exactly.
You're thinking.
Exactly right. And that is what we celebrate on Pesach, and that's Lamaisia. What we want to give over to our children, this sense of no matter how bleak, we'll be here. And for them to celebrate Pesach in Bergen-Belsen, with a joy that somehow that they're going to outlive the Nazis it defies logic. But that's the miracle of the Jews. That's the miracle of the Jews. Nobody else can do that. But that's the miracle of the Jews. That's why we are who we are. And that's what we celebrate the night of Pesach. And every year Pesach, we get to enjoy this Passover experience, but we skip the interim steps. B'li Neder, we'll try to cover some more ground next week.